Welcome back, music fans. This is the Corruption of Colton podcast, episode 26, with your host, Colton. That's me. And today we're going to be going over the debut studio album, One Day Remains, by hard rock band Alter Bridge. Alter Bridge is basically Creed minus frontman Scott Stapp, who they had parted ways with at the time for numerous problems with Scott Stapp's behavior at the time. But anyways, this is basically Creed, but they decided to team up with vocalist Myles Kennedy and form Alter Bridge. Myles Kennedy is pretty famous in his own right in metal, being part of Alter Bridge, doing his own solo albums under the name Myles Kennedy, and doing his own band with Guns N' Roses as Slash, doing Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators. Also, Tremonti's pretty famous in his own right, being part of not only Creed, but doing his own Tremonti solo albums over the years. So everyone in Alter Bridge / Creed is pretty successful in his own right. So today we're going to be going over their debut album, One Day Remains. Find the Real is an amazing album opener and amazing start to the band Alter Bridge. This band has everything we know and love about Creed, but with some added touches. It has the melodic choruses of Creed, but then it has more intense guitar work, more intense drumming, and more intense bass than Creed really had. This basically sounds like a more hard rock, or like even in some areas, a more heavy metal version of Creed. It's like Creed if it entered in a heavier direction, which, if you think about it, this band is basically Creed, but with a different singer. I mean, it's got Tremonti on guitar, who was in Creed. It's the same bassist and the same drummer from Creed, just a different singer. You basically minus Scott Stapp, bring in the singer Myles Kennedy, and you call it Alter Bridge. It's basically a heavier Creed. And I'm all here for it. This is a great song, great opener. I'm all here for it. I'm already enjoying it, and we're only one song in. Let's see what the rest of this debut album has to offer. The next track on the album is the title track, One Day Remains. And honestly, this might be one of my favorite rock songs of all time. The song is about believing in yourself and fighting for yourself, even when things seem dark and gloomy, and that even if you don't per se believe in yourself, there will be one person in your life who will believe in you, even when everyone else is against you. And I honestly think that this is one of the most important songs Alter Bridge has ever written. I feel like a lot of people need this song at some point in their life, because you'll feel like everyone is against you. I know I've been there in my lifetime. I've had my own parents and pretty much every adult that I'm supposed to trust be against me throughout my life. So I completely relate to this song. And this song actually makes me feel better on some days. You know, sometimes when I feel like there's nobody there for me, I just listen to this song and I remember that, you know, there is someone out there who believes in me. If it's someone in my family, one of my friends, my girlfriend, whoever it is, there is somebody who believes in me, man. And I want you to know there's somebody who believes in you, too. I believe in you and whatever you're going through, even though I don't know you, listener. I believe in you, okay? This is one of the greatest songs Alter Bridge has ever written, hands down. So, the next track on the album is called Open Your Eyes. And fun fact, this was actually the first single to be released for this album. And like many of the songs on this album to follow, this one is about peace, and I definitely feel peaceful vibes when listening to this track, especially when you get into the solemn chorus where Myles Kennedy sings, "Will they open their eyes and realize we are one?" And I interpret this as we're all the same. We're all the same regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, or culture and where we come from. And overall, I think that this is a really great song that a lot of people can learn a lesson from. I really like this song. So the next track, Burn It Down, is a ballad, and that's all fine and dandy, but I do have a bone to pick with it. But I'll start with the positives. The song starts off really strong in the first verse with some really impactful lyrics. Miles Kennedy sings here, "Drank so much last night, I think I drown. No one's seen my will around." And for the most part, the verses are very strong, especially in the second verse as well, where Miles Kennedy sings with this, like, soft tone, kind of bone-chilling, actually, and it really gets the point across about suffering with inner demons, right? But I feel like my bone to pick with this is that the chorus isn't that strong. The chorus is pretty lackluster, actually. Like, it really just doesn't fit with the rest of the song. The chorus just seems very lame, boring. It just doesn't seem like it really adds much of anything. There's not much of substance, if that makes sense. There's just not much of substance to the chorus, and it's very distracting because I feel like the verses have a lot of substance to them. So when you have two verses that have really good substance and great story being told, and then mixed in between the two verses is a really cheap, boring chorus, that chorus is going to be really distracting, you know what I mean? So every time I listen to this song, I kind of skip it because the chorus bores me. And, you know, I like the verses, so I wish I could like this song more, but the chorus just really distracts me and turns me off and makes me skip this song a lot of the times that I listen to this album. But I do sometimes come back to it because I really do enjoy the deep, meaningful verses. Overall, this song's just okay. It's fine. But definitely not this album's strong suit. So, this next track, Metalingus, might actually be the most interesting song on this entire record. Let me start with the basics. In my opinion, this song has one of the best intros on this record. It has this really intense, deep, heavy metal-like bass line that starts off the song with the drums pounding over it. It's really good, and that's just the sound of the song. This song actually has a lot in common with metal music, and I think it's a great song, but now let's get into some really interesting facts. For one, let's talk about how it was written. So, the drummer of Creed and Mark Tremonti, the guitarist, were just fed up of how things were going in Creed. I'm summarizing what Mark Tremonti said in an interview. I'm looking at the song facts page if you want to know my source. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to keep summarizing. So, Mark Tremonti and the drummer were kind of just fed up of everything going on in Creed. So as Creed was ending, they started Alter Bridge. And Mark Tremonti had demos for about half the songs on this album, but this is one of the songs that was actually written during the album's writing sessions, which I'll get into in a second. So Mark Tremonti originally was going to be the singer, but he felt like he was not good enough to be the singer for the band, so they went singer searching, and that's where they met Miles Kennedy, and they started demoing songs for this album, and this is one of the songs that was written for the record. But that's not the most interesting fact about this song. You know what the most interesting fact is? This song was used as the entry theme for a WWE wrestler. I can't pronounce his name, but this was his entry theme from about the 2000s until his retirement, and the song would be used up until his death in 2011, I believe. And this would be used even when he made TV appearances, even if it wasn't his time in the ring. And during his fights, the lyrics would be referenced by commentators and stuff like that. So this is actually one of the most interesting dynamic songs on the record when it comes to backstory. I had a lot of fun researching this track because when I make episodes, what I do is I usually research each song as I listen to the record and take notes on the songs so that I can present fun facts and whatnot to you guys when I record the episodes, right? And when researching this song, Metalingus, I just thought that some of the most interesting facts were about this song, which is really cool. So this next song is really interesting, Broken Wings. This is a direct quote from Mark Tremonti. This is a song about fallen morals after 9/11. And I'm going to summarize here because it's a long paragraph, but basically Mark Tremonti goes on to explain that he notices the cultural shift that happened after 9/11. People started turning against each other, and more people were being turned into thugs. And it's true. So I was born in 2003, 2 years after 9/11 occurred, right? But I've noticed the cultural impact that's had because I've been told stories by my father and by my former neighbor Lenny, who was born in 1925. And the stories they've told me about the world pre-2001 is very different. Neighbors wanted to help each other. People were far more passionate towards each other. You know, if someone got hurt, you jumped to check on them, take care of them, even if it was a stranger. It didn't matter who they were. But now with the rise of the internet and the after effects of 9/11, everyone in society's turned on each other, and now it's every man for himself. The world has really changed. It seems like everyone's out from trying to help one another to trying to kill one another. Look at all the gun violence in America post 9/11. Like, just take a look at our inner cities. Chicago, New York. Just take a look around you. You know what I mean? Like, it's horrible how our world has changed culturally. It's terrifying. And even take a look at what the internet and what everyone having a tablet has done to people like Generation Alpha. I mean, I was talking to one of my coworkers this morning at work. I was talking to my coworker, Jim, and we were talking about how these days, kids in Generation Alpha, 8th graders can't even write at an 8th grade level. Fuck. I'm going to leave that in because that was pretty funny, though. 8th graders in Generation Alpha are writing at a 4th grade level, and teachers have said that their dyslexic students are writing and have better handwriting than their non-disabled pupils. Okay? It's very concerning. And it scares me where this generation's headed because I feel like I'm the last generation to grow up playing outside. Like, I used to play with the neighborhood kids when I was a kid. I feel like I was the last kid to have monitored screen time with an iPad. I feel like I was the last generation to have parents that waited to get me a cell phone until I was like 16. Now 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds have cell phones or tablet or some sort of electronic device that allows them to access literally anything at their fingertips, including pornography and things they're not supposed to be viewing. It's a very scary time that we are living in with the rise of Generation Alpha. It really terrifies me, and I feel like this song shines light on that, and I just wish that things could go back to the way they were, but unfortunately that's impossible. The world has shifted so much culturally in the last 21 years that I don't think there's much we can do. Like, in the last 21 years since I was born, from 2003 to now 2024, the world has shifted so much. This world's gone to shit, in my opinion. But I guess I'm not going to dwell on this for too long. I don't want to get into a political tangent. I'm going to move on to the next song. So this next track, In Loving Memory, is a ballad, and I think it's the most straightforward track on the album, singing about just remembering someone, remembering a loved one. And This song lyrically is written in such a universal way that I think it could literally apply to anyone in any situation. The loss of a partner, a family member, friend. It could be someone that passed away. It could be someone who walked out on you. From my interpretation, when I listen to this track, I think of someone in my life who's deceased. I think of my grandmother's boyfriend, Ron. They're both dead now, unfortunately, but I think of him when I listen to this track, and just memories go flooding into my brain of us spending time together. That's basically what I promised myself I wouldn't get emotional while recording, but apparently I've broken that. I've broken that rule. And just, I really think of him because they are just lovely memories. Also, fun fact, this is one of the songs Mark Tremonti wrote towards the end of Creed before they had even, started recording music for Alter Bridge. This was during those, intense writing sessions that I mentioned earlier. But I'm gonna go Compose Myself. It's a good song. It's one of my favorites on the record, but I'm gonna go Compose Myself. I'll be back in a few minutes. For you guys, it'll be 2 seconds with a little jump cut, but for me, probably a few minutes. Down to My Last was a pretty good track with a pretty good riff and a pretty good drum groove in the verses too, if I must say so myself. And I really enjoyed the acoustic bridge in this track. We get a little bit of a break from the electric guitar riffs, and we get this little acoustic bridge section that kind of slows things down and makes the song a little more melodic. And I really enjoyed it. It was a pretty good song, in my opinion. So, first things first, this track, Watch Your Words, has a really crunchy riff in the beginning that's like... And I'm in love with it. It gives me a little bit more of a metal vibe, and I am in love with it. It's like a crunchy, hard rock metal riff. Anyways, moving on. I could not find much information on the song meaning or any liner notes, but after reading the lyrics on Apple Music, I interpret it as maybe a religious song? I'm really not sure, but I enjoy it. I think that Myles Kennedy is vocally at his best on this track. I think he's definitely at his most melodic performance, at his most serious performance. He sounds the most genuine on this track. This is definitely one of Myles Kennedy's best performances on this album, in my opinion. I really like it. So this next song, Shed My Skin, is one of the most personal on this record. There's an interview from Mark Tremonti around this time where he explains that he grew up with his parents and brother in Detroit, but his parents would move him around a lot, so they moved him down. His mother moved him down to Florida, and his brother stayed back in Detroit, and it was the first time that he really felt really alone. He was 15 years old at the time, and this is when he really started writing, so this song goes way back, and it definitely feels like one of the most interpersonal songs on the record, and I love it. This is probably in my top 3 songs from this record. This song feels really strong. It feels really interpersonal, and if this was really written by a 15-year-old, this is really impressive writing for a 15-year-old. I can only imagine how successful it would have been if it had been on a Creed record, but good thing he saved it for Alter Bridge, because this gives Alter Bridge a lot of credibility. This is a great song. I'm getting a drink of water. I always keep water bottles and sodas here in my recording room at my basement counter. I have a little fridge, couch,
my CD collections on the other side of the wall there. I keep things nearby me for this podcast. I just got me a Aquafina water bottle. But, yeah, this is one of the greatest songs in Alter Bridge's career, in my opinion. So, the last track on this album is called The End Is Here, which is really funny because it's also the last song on the album, but this song isn't about a song being the last song, but it's just funny that it was placed there. Anyways, this song starts with a cool orchestral and acoustic intro that I really vibe with before we get into some really meaningful and powerful lyrics, in my opinion. I want to read you some lyrics from the chorus, if I may. For the rest of my life, I will find the answers that were always here. I will find the meaning this time. I will fight until the end is here. Till the end is here. Till the end is here. Those are some pretty powerful, impactful lyrics that I interpret as taking control of your life and finding the meaning of life and the meaning of your purpose. And you will go until the end of your life to find meaning in your life. So these are some pretty powerful, impactful lyrics about finding your life's true purpose. These are some pretty impactful words, folks. And with that, this was a pretty good and impactful album, let me tell you. There are some really strong vocal performances by Myles Kennedy here. There's some pretty strong songwriting from Mark Tremonti, and there's some pretty crunchy riffs and moments on guitar to enjoy here with some good drum beats on a song or two. So I'm going to name off my top 3 favorites now, which would be In Loving Memory, the title track, One Day Remains, Broken Wings, and as a bonus track, Shed My Skin, because I think that's a pretty impactful song, and you can't leave that out. I mean, it really gives this album some really impactful moments. The most impactful moments for me are Shed My Skin and Broken Wings and In Loving Memory. They have some pretty meaningful memories and some meaningful lyrics, meaningful moments, meaningful messages, right? So, pretty good album in my opinion. One Day Remains by Alter Bridge might be one of the best debut albums of the 2000s. I hope you guys enjoyed this album review from Corruption of Colton podcast, and I'm going to try and put one of these out once a week. Don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with that. I've said that before, but I'm going to actually put in an effort this time. So hopefully I can put one out every, Friday. That's my goal, Fridays. This will be going up on a Tuesday, February 25th at midnight, but I'm going to try and get the next one out on, March 8th. That's a Friday. So, yeah. Thank you so much for listening.